Alistair Cooke, The Essential Letters from America, the 1940s and 50s. In September 1932, Alistair Cooke had his first sight of America in that most traditional of ways from the deck of a Cunard liner, the Laconia, as it entered New York Harbour. It was twilight, and Manhattan's skyline made a profound impression on him. 20 years later, he recalled the moment. Since it was fall, the upper air was cool and clear, and this always brings on skies of great purity in the evening. The downtown skyscrapers were soaring and black, but the sky behind them was a sheet of almost metallic blue. They were piled up like the ramparts of some medieval city. Cooke was a polished and sophisticated 23, recently come down from Cambridge. He'd already come a long way from a respectable lower-middle-class background in Salford and then Blackpool. Perhaps to symbolise his journey, he'd adopted the name Alistair in preference to the one he was born with, the rather more prosaic Alfred. As an undergraduate at Jesus College, the newly invented Alistair Cooke had demonstrated a dazzling range of talents in what he called his magical years. Amazed by the Cambridge tradition of single-sex drama groups, he had founded his own, The Mummers, for men and women. He acted, directed, played the piano, composed music, and took plays on tour in Britain and Europe. He wrote for Granta, the leading undergraduate magazine, and became resident cartoonist. Granta's heavyweight editorial team included the poet William Empson, Jacob Bronowski, Michael Redgrave, and the novelist T.H. White. He was also contributing reviews to the Manchester Guardian. There seemed nothing he couldn't turn his hand to, and in his last year he became Granta's editor. Inevitably, his academic work suffered. He failed to get a coveted first-class degree with its guarantee of prolonging his varsity career. At this moment, perhaps the first crisis of Cooke's young life, there appeared a fairy godmother in the guise of the Commonwealth Fund. He applied for and was awarded a fellowship to include study for 2 years at an American university, with generous travel and subsistence, making him suddenly relatively well off. All this largesse was ostensibly to increase friendship and understanding between the two countries, an aim that Cooke was to cherish all his life. He started at Yale, then switched to Harvard. He made extensive tours of the States by motorcar, pursuing his increasingly eclectic interests in jazz, the American language, and above all cinema. This opportunity for travel gave him in 1933 his first real American experience outside metropolitan New York and Yale's Ivy League. 1933 was the beginning of President Roosevelt's first term of office, and Cooke could see at close quarters the results of the Great Depression and how FDR was attempting to put America back to work. It made a profound impression on him. I didn't realize for another year or two that that trip and the undimmed memory of it were to mark the twilight of my life in the theatre and the dawn of the idea that a foreign correspondent was a better trade for me. With his interest in the cinema, it was inevitable that he would finally make for California. On his first visit to Hollywood, on an interview assignment he'd sold to The Observer, Cooke met many people in the film world. One man in particular instantly took to him. He was called Charlie Chaplin. As Cooke said, when Chaplin took to anyone, he was wide open from the start, spontaneous, generous, gabby, confidential as if taking up again where he'd left off with a favourite long-lost brother. Chaplin became a friend of the young Englishman. 1934 was to be an important year, as Cooke fell in love with an American girl, Ruth Emerson, from one of the oldest New England families. He also found his first job. Chaplin had asked Cooke to come back to Hollywood to help him with a script that he was currently working on. The subject was Napoleon. Ruth and Alistair and a Harvard friend drove the 3,000 miles from Boston to California, another of the many epic road trips that he made over the years. Cooke got to work on the script. The famously moody and difficult Chaplin was charming. They all spent time on his yacht, the Panacea, with his current leading lady, Paulette Goddard, during a lazy Californian summer. In August, Alistair and Ruth decided to get married, and Chaplin announced that he would be the best man.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?